Minister for Foreign Affairs and Labour, Peter David, has called on small islands developing states to create a foundation. He was addressing the general debate of the 74th session of the General Assembly of the United Nations in New York last weekend.
Member states of the Organization of East Caribbean States are calling on all small island developing states to join us to create a SIDS foundation, the purpose of which will be to mobilize the funding and other resources required to finance adaptation in a manner that does not create fiscal stress on our fragile economies. With limited access to and an ever-increasing competition for climate and development financing, these climate change and poverty challenges are further intensified.
Minister David highlighted the impact of recent hurricanes on Caribbean countries as a reason for this foundation.
Hurricane Dorian has reminded us that the entire GDP of SIDS can be wiped out in a few hours. The Bahamas experience contains many new lessons and points to many new imperatives in adaptation for these small, vulnerable states. The cost of adaptation from this experience requires massive public expenditure for virtual reconstruction of the entire infrastructure if you are to withstand successive onslaught of hurricanes.
The Foreign Affairs Minister called on international countries to provide the support small island developing states need.
Mr. President, the Global Commission on Adaptation just this week has reminded us of the scale of resources needed to address the adaptation needs of developing countries. The report indicates that investing $1.8 trillion globally from 2020 to 2030 in 5 areas of climate adaptation could yield $7.1 trillion in net benefits. Mobilizing these resources requires a concerted multilateral effort. I therefore issue a call here today and to the rest of the international community to step up and respond to the needs identified.
Grenada's plans for developing St. George into a climate-smart city were presented in New York last week at one of the events organized as part of the United Nations Climate Action Summit. The engagements were intended to encourage countries to increase their efforts to combat climate change. Cherry and Blackman Stephen, GBN News.